Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dr. K Show. Today I have Dr. Kylie Burton on with me and I'm so excited. She is a functional medicine practitioner out in Utah, but her practice is virtual. So she's completely online, which is really cool. And she basically, her structure and who she works with is just anybody who's really tired of getting passed from doctor to doctor, that's really fed up of not getting the answers and getting their questions answered. That's what she does. So Dr. Kylie Burton, welcome to the show.
I'm excited. Today we're going to talk about a hot topic that I love, this thing called thyroid.
I'm so excited. It's going to be great. Thyroid is something that I see in my practice all the time. I see like symptoms of low thyroid. I see symptoms of thyroid that haven't even been diagnosed as thyroid yet. It's lots and lots of patients come in and they have all the symptoms, but none of their labs reflect that they have like hypo or hyperthyroid, but they have all the classic symptoms of it. So there's definitely, I think I saw a stat at one point that like 1 in 5 women has basically thyroid type symptoms or hypothyroid of some type that's just gone undiagnosed, which is an insane amount of people when you think about it. So I know
so many people should get diagnosed, but they fall within that so-called normal range, and yet they still show all of the symptoms.
Yep.
So that's one of the biggest things that I see too, is people are so sick and tired of being told that their labs are normal, yet they feel like crap.
Right.
They've got the fatigue, they've got the brittle hair, sometimes even constipation, an inability to lose weight. I mean, some of the healthiest people I know eat the best, but they definitely don't wear a size 2.
Yeah. Yep.
That's all based on this thyroid. So
yeah, totally. Okay. Well, awesome. Do you want to tell us a little bit of background of what got you into working with thyroid and hormones and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. So when I just graduated from undergrad. I had my bachelor's degree in, I have to think about this, holy cow. My bachelor's degree in nutrition.
Yeah.
So I got into like all the food. But that being said, it was like, okay, go have dairy, go drink your milk for your calcium, your RDA values for vitamin A, you can get toxicity levels and stuff that the food pyramid, the food plate, like that was the nutrition I was taught.
Mm-hmm.
I paid, I got a bachelor's degree in that nutrition. And then I got a job for a chiropractor who did a little bit of functional medicine, but I didn't even know what chiropractic was. I didn't know what functional medicine was. I was total go hard, Western medicine, antibiotics for everything all the way. That's how I grew up. So I got introduced to this whole world of alternative in this world of functional medicine. And that being said, it opened up a new light. And I took all of that nutrition knowledge I had in my head and I dumped it in the trash.
Yeah. Yep.
Because that's what you have to do to truly heal. And I've even talked to people, they're like, well, my food app, whatever nutrition app they're using, tells me I'm getting 100% of my vitamins and 100% of my iron. And I always have to tell them, well, remember, those are RDA values. Those are values that the government has set that say, oh, this is what a healthy person is. And in reality, it's just, this is what you need to not die, basically.
Totally. Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. I mean, I work with athletes predominantly, and the RDAs don't really apply. They don't really apply at all. I would say
you might as well make them look like they're fat, but it's just solid muscle.
Yep, the majority of people that I work with, I usually find so many nutrient deficiencies, just simply because if you follow the recommended daily amounts, athletes use usually way more than what's actually recommended. And anyway, there's lots and lots that I could go on that, but it's really common for the RDAs to really not apply. So anyway, it's not the best to go off of. There's a lot more to nutrition, I think, than that. There's a lot of specificity that, depends on people's genetics, depends on their health and their environment. There's just so much more than just making a blanket statement for everyone that I think it really misses the mark.
Right. Yeah, so I graduated with my bachelor's thinking I wanted to become a dietitian and go get my master's and work with people in the hospital and do the you know, work with people with diabetes and all that fun stuff, teach them how to eat right in quotations, right? Um, and then I realized, you know, these people, they don't really want to get better.
Right.
These people, they take a life sentence and it's them, and that's fine. If they want to take that route, that's totally fine. But that's not the type of people I wanted to work with. I wanted to work with somebody who believed that they could beat the system and that they could get their body back inside a healing environment and heal and live the life that they were designed to live once again, not just take a diagnosis as a lifetime sentence. So
yeah,
I got into functional medicine. Like I said, I was introduced to it and I ran with it. One of the things I experienced in clinic working as an assistant was I would get asked by women, you know, I'd go into the treatment room first, and then the ladies would come in and they'd tell me about their hormone problems, or they have hot flashes, low libido, they can't get pregnant, things like that, but yet they wouldn't want to tell the doctor. And they would always say, okay, well, don't tell the doctor. And I would reassure them that if they told the doctor, he could help. But that was not my responsibility to tell them. So after enough of this, getting told, shh, don't tell the doctor, I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to go become the doctor myself. Because women have issues that we don't want to talk to men about. They don't understand it, right?
Yeah.
Even though they can be the best doctors in the world. So I just decided to go apply to school where I met you.
Yeah.
And we both have delved into functional medicine and AK and helping people in our various areas. So hormones are one of my passions because one, I am female, and two, hormones can go awry very quickly, very easily. And ladies, it is not your fault. This is a fault of the environment that we live in that we cannot do anything about. So quit telling yourself that it's your lack of motivation or your lack of control on eating the sugar at night or grabbing the licorice or, you know, the soda, whatever it may be. This is physiologically inside of you that's driving your chemistry that way. I'm going to teach you today how we can fix the thyroid in 4 simple steps. I guarantee you, your endocrinologist does not know this. Don't ask me why. It's not taught in school. When I learned this about the thyroid, I was like, this makes it so easy. Why do people not teach this?
Right.
But I learned it at a separate seminar. So if you are struggling with weight loss, infertility even, your hair is not vibrant hair it used to be, even constipation, that's a really common side effect of thyroid problems. This would be for you. So specifically, I want to show you guys. You ready to dive in, Kirsten? I'm ready to dive in.
I'm ready to go. You just have at it.
I want to share with you guys a couple pictures, screenshots that I've just taken of people reaching out to me in regards to thyroid problems. So if this sounds like you, you're in the right place. It's amazing how difficult it is to get them to run more than one lab. I've been to numerous doctors and still haven't been able to achieve this, even though it's known I have Hashimoto's and some of my symptoms are very obvious. I'm about to cut 14 inches off my hair because it's just so thin, and the amount I lose daily is just depressing. Not to mention, they weigh you every time. What more can I do? Crying to them after suffering for years only makes them think you're crazy. The mental toll this has taken was one I didn't even know existed. I did what they said, sought mental help, and still can't even get my endocrinologist to take me seriously. I understand and have started to adjust to a new norm, but I refuse to accept my quality of life can't be better than it is when I know there are options I'm being denied. Word for word, somebody.
Yep.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. But it's not, though. I mean, I see it all the time, you know? I mean, I feel like
why we do what we do is we have to think differently. If you want different results, you have to think differently.
Yep.
Here's another one.
Okay, go ahead.
So she says, I had blood work. My TPO, which are antibodies that tell you have Hashimoto's, should be less than 60, and they are 237. So in this case, this lady does have Hashimoto's. I've had 2 surgeries in the last 4 years to help my heartburn, which works for about 1.5 years, and then I regain symptoms, and I'm always cold. I sleep with the heater at 73, and I still have a heating pad on me all night. My joints all hurt, I have brain fog, and I am very forgetful. Then to top it all off, today my doctor told me that there was nothing they can do for me.
Wow. Wow.
So I'm going to tell you, I've treated both of them, and I did not touch their thyroid.
Okay.
I'm going to teach you the 4 causes, the 4 problems that affect your thyroid that make your thyroid go haywire. If you resolve those 4 things, you don't have thyroid issues anymore. And so even though everybody wants to blame their thyroid, remember your thyroid is just a piece of a system, and that system is a piece of your larger whole body. So, we ready for this, Kirsten?
Oh, I'm so ready. I talk about this all the time, how we really cannot be looking at organs in isolation. Like if you just are looking at the thyroid, then it's highly likely that you're missing so much more. I'm sure you're about to go into it, but I have just seen, I've seen how the GI tract is affected by the thyroid, but can also affect the thyroid, like, chasing chicken and the egg. I mean, there's the liver, there's everything. So I'm sure you're about to go into it. So I'll be quiet and let you go.
All right, so we're going to just talk about the system. The system that we're going to talk about is this thing called HPT. Now, to keep it very, very simple, here we have H at the top, P in the middle, and T at the bottom. Now think about this as a food chain. Your thyroid is literally at the bottom of the food chain. The H stands for hypothalamus, and the P stands for pituitary. This pituitary gland sits in the middle of your head. If you were to draw a line down the middle of your head, that's where your pituitary gland sits. And that is actually what we call like our master controller. It's going to talk to your thyroid and tell your thyroid what to do. So the pituitary is the master controller. It's going to tell your thyroid what to do. Here's the interesting thing when it comes to thyroid testing. The TSH, which is what everybody gets for your thyroid marker, is actually not even produced by your thyroid. It's produced by your pituitary, right? The P.
Yeah.
So the pituitary produces TSH, which goes down and tells your thyroid what to do. So if you're really wanting to get a good thyroid marker, TSH is only the beginning. It's only telling the communication to the thyroid. It has nothing to do with what your thyroid's producing. Talk to an endocrinologist about that, and I bet they wouldn't remember that from school. Now, here's the other problem with thyroid. Your thyroid labs are normal if your TSH is between 0.5 and around 5.5, depending on the lab, which is a big range. So you could have a 1.2 TSH and you feel like crap, you can't lose weight, you don't have energy, you're losing your hair, and yet your doctor keeps telling you that your labs are normal and you're fine, right?
Yep.
Now, ideally, you want optimal levels of TSH, and an optimal level is 1.8 to 3, which is much smaller than that 0.5 to 5. Now, if you're looking at this and you say, okay, my TSH is 0.8, it's low, don't go tell your doctor that you have hyperthyroid. They're going to laugh at your face, because to them, normal is above 0.5 and less than 5.5. But you don't want to be normal. You want to be optimal. You want to be ideal. So this is where you want to fall between 1.8 and 3.0. So take a look at your TSH. I guarantee you have it taken if you have thyroid issues or you think you have thyroid issues, because that's the one marker that's always taken. If it's less than 1.8 or if it's above 3, you got issues with the entire system here. Now you can blame the pituitary. You can blame that P, because P is responsible for producing TSH. But what if we take a step back and we think, okay, well, if my pituitary is struggling to make thyroid hormone. Why is it struggling? When you ask the why, now you can see that there are two factors that are going to slow down your P. The first factor, which is the first step of our 4 steps, is cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. So mamas, if you've been stressed for too long, your cortisol is going to impact your thyroid. Your stress is going to impact your thyroid. That's number 1. Number 2 out of our 4 is inflammation. Inflammation is this hot word that everybody likes to blame everything on. If it's not thyroid, it's inflammation, right?
Yeah.
So inflammation is going to negatively impact P, which is going to slow down your thyroid. So the first 2 steps to fixing your thyroid and to having a better TSH is to lower your stress levels and tackle inflammation. Now, a lot of people will take turmeric for inflammation. That works great. It's a great anti-inflammatory. I, however, like to take a different route. I like to say, well, why is your body being inflamed? Figure out the why, conquer it, no more inflammation. One of the other easiest ways to tackle inflammation, if you just want to just say I'm tackling inflammation, besides turmeric, is to crank up those omega-3s and 6s. Have a lot of good healthy fats. If you like avocados, that's awesome. Avocados should become your best friends. They're one of the healthiest foods you can eat, and it tackles inflammation with all those healthy fats.
Absolutely.
Kirsten, you got any more routes that they can take to tackle inflammation?
Oh, yeah. So a couple of things too that I wanted to mention is that one, so you work with a lot of women and moms, and and people who, are watching this are all over the range. Specifically though, with athletes that I see that have thyroid type things going on, this is one of the trickier pieces because we have to kind of figure out where the cortisol piece can be coming from. And some of that can just be coming from the fact that people stress themselves out, not only in their workouts, but along their entire day, because they're thinking about the workouts they have to get done. There's just a lot of stressors that can happen on the other side as far as athletes go. And so managing cortisol is actually really important. And there's a lot of different tools that you can use to do that. Like with some of my athletes, I make sure that they are meditating at least once a day. We have like a morning and an evening routine to make sure that we are doing everything we can to bring things down. There's a lot of optimization that kind of comes with that. It's not just about taking an adrenal supplement, for example. The other one is for inflammation. There's a lot, and I know you're probably going to get into this, and I mentioned it before, but I find that if there are signs of inflammation, like thyroid, for example, but usually along with this, particularly in athletes, you'll see a lot of like muscle and joint pain and just not really recovering very well either. So super fatigued, kind of slow, like your muscles just feel like they take forever to recover. A lot of the times I see people really benefit from looking at the GI tract. So probiotics, but not just probiotics. You've got to really figure out what actually is happening in the gut first and fix the environment and be doing a lot of pieces together. But that can be extremely helpful for that. I mean, there's so many things. There's all sorts of adaptogens that you can use in order to help reduce inflammation. And again, a lot of that is just adding those types of things into your normal routines, like doing an adaptogen tea, either in the morning or in the evening. Just little things that you can incorporate in that can have a pretty big impact on inflammation as a whole. But again, if you're going to be adding stuff in, you really want to be knowing where that source of the inflammation is coming from, because that's going to be a little bit more effective than just continuing to put supplements in all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the supplement industry makes a lot of money.
They sure do. They sure do.
So there's cortisol and inflammation are your number 1 and 2 issues with thyroid. So if you're dealing with any type of thyroid, think, okay, what can I do to lower my stress levels? And not only just think about external stressors, like in the case of your athletes, I work with a lot of moms who have a lot of kids, and kids and themselves are stressed. A mother's duty is never done. She's 24/7. So that would be the external stressor. You have to always think about internal stressors as well. So say your body doesn't like you eating dairy and you're eating dairy, that's still a source of stress, and it's also a source of inflammation. So there's a double whammy there. Speaking of food, when it comes to thyroid, if you were to do one thing in regards to your diet for thyroid health, that would be to eliminate gluten. And I always tell my patients, eliminate gluten for 21 days. That's it. Just do 3 weeks and see how you feel. Because the research has shown that if you cut an inflammatory food out for just 3 weeks, your marker of inflammation, known as HSCRP, will decrease in just a 3-week time period. The second thing is, I'm a realist. If you were to tell me that I can't eat Texas Roadhouse rolls ever again, yeah, screw you. I'm never starting it.
Yep.
Right? So if you just say, okay, I'm going to set apart a 3-week time period, I'm going to tackle my diet, I'm going to reduce inflammation via my diet and help my thyroid out, you'll be amazed at just what a 3-week period can make a difference.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I'm real. I like my bread, although I do my 21 days at least once, if not twice a year, and I hardly ever eat gluten and dairy. But if I'm going out to Texas Roadhouse, I'm going to eat rolls.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line.
Yep. I think there's a lot of balance that's really important, but it's not this is a whole other podcast, to be perfectly honest, but balance is important, but I think you also need to be looking at how often you're finding balance. I think in moderation is kind of overdone in many ways. I think when I'm talking about like in moderation, I'm talking about like maybe twice a year. It's just different how I look at eating inflammatory foods. It's a lot less than what when I actually have somebody like write out what they're eating every single day. There you'll find that there's a lot more frequency of inflammatory foods.
Cheating going on.
Yeah.
I always tell patients, do 21 days, and then they're like, well, what about after? Okay, so do your 21 days and then do an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you eat healthy, 20% of the time you can splurge on that birthday party.
Yep.
But that being said, is they go back to eating those foods, and they're like, oh my gosh, I just feel so much better when I'm not eating that.
Yep.
And it's like I had one young 22-year-old, she had Hashimoto's, PCOS. She was terrified to start getting pregnant because she never had a regular period in her life. And didn't want to have to go down the whole infertility route. And I looked at her diet, and it was like 80% pasta. She just loved pasta.
Yep.
And I said, okay, now I'll work with you, but you're going to have to realize pasta is going to become a treat for you in the future. It's not going to be a once a day type thing.
Right.
And she didn't think she could do it.
Yeah.
But we give a lot of, just like you, we have a lot of recipes and things that we give to patients to help them out.
Yeah.
And then she did it, and now she doesn't eat. She hardly eats pasta. She went to Chick-fil-A the other day and got just a regular sandwich. Regretted it a day later.
Mm-hmm.
So she recognizes it in herself that not only has the nausea and the vomiting disappeared, but she's actually on her second child. And infertility was never actually an issue. She took out birth control, and the first month was pregnant.
Amazing.
So it's really fun when you tackle these type of underlying things, you get the life that you're designed to live.
For sure.
Not rather than just say throwing Synthroid or throwing Armor out or throwing levothyroxine out at your thyroid. And just like I was talking to a lady the other day, and she's been on Armor for 20 years. And I said, well, is it healthy? And she's like, well, no, I'm just taking it anyways. Well, why?
Mm-hmm.
That's just their only option.
Yeah.
So they take it. No, medications and thyroid issues can be very useful, but a lot of times they are not needed.
Yeah. So what's part 3 and 4?
Okay, so we have TSH. TSH gets made by the pituitary, tells the thyroid to start producing this hormone called T4. Now, if you don't have a T4 in your thyroid marker, you need to take a free T4. Get that in the lab. So here I'll write T4. Ideally, you want T4 to be between 3 and 4. That would be ideal range. Now T4 is going to get produced or converted to T3, and T3 is going to go to every single cell in your body. T3, let's see here, I lied. T3, you want the range to be between 3 and 4. T4 is 0.5 to 1. Double check that at the end, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm going to show you an example afterwards, and that's what they are. Okay, so T4 gets produced by your thyroid. It gets converted into T3, and T3 goes out to talk to all of your cells. Where the conversion takes place is number 3 and 4. Conversion takes place in your liver and in your gut. So if you have an overburdened liver, which I can almost guarantee you do if you live in 21st century America, there's so much bombarding our livers that your liver is taking a toll.
Yep.
It's going to affect your thyroid. Your gut, like we talked about earlier, if your gut isn't good, you're going to lack that conversion, which is going to affect your thyroid. So the 4 things: cortisol, inflammation, liver, gut.
It's amazing.
Now, if you were to take your labs, we were just plug in somebody's labs right here. I'll give you an example of a patient I worked with this week. I just reworked her labs. I reread her labs. We reworked the treatment plan based off of her labs to get her off of the Armour medication. So her TSH was 1.361. That's low. If your TSH is low, according to this optimal range, remember it's not normal ranges, these are optimal ranges. If it's low, you're going to look at this guy, the pituitary, and back to these two, because this is what's struggling, making the pituitary struggle. So in her case, little side note here, she does not have a stomach. Her stomach was removed surgically due to a cancerous gene.
Oh.
So her GI tract is very hindered, needless to say. So when it comes to just taking supplements and things like that, that's not an option for her. So I recommended GA, which is the adrenal adaptogen that I use, but I did liquid. And there's a liquid version of it, so that way she can take the liquid version and put it on her skin directly over her adrenal glands and her low back. And I showed her where those were. So, and then I recommended GB, which is the pituitary stimulation person. Also, because the pituitary is on your head, I don't think you want to put oils in your hair. So I had her put it on the bottoms of her feet, where the pores are the largest. And then last but not least, we did GF to stimulate the thyroid, because her T4 was, I remember right, 0.28, and her T3 was 2.86. So everything was low, which means we needed to fix all 4 steps and then boost the system. So she's really struggling with her ability to lose weight. I mean, and she has no stomach, so she can hardly eat. It's not like her diet is the problem and her calories are the problem. But when your hormones are not communicating to your cells, when T3 is not, when you don't have enough T3 to go out to your cells and to tell your cells to speed up your metabolism, or to tell your cells to convert food into energy, you're going to feel fatigued. and you're going to not lose weight no matter how hard you try, which is her case.
Right.
So we stimulated the entire system. We're going to go back and fix the cortisol. And then I recommended CVO, which is a powerful antioxidant loaded with omega-3s and 6s for her inflammation, to just tackle that. Now she wanted to do a DIY route moving forward. So I just recommended those supplements, gave her a 3-month plan, and we'll see what she's going to retest again in 3 months. But being on Armour Thyroid, she has Armour Thyroid is T4 and T3. So her body is getting a synthetic version of T4 and T3. So knowing that her body is already not producing T4 and T3, she's getting boosted. It's getting boosted with these the prescription is boosting her production of T4 and T3. So they really, 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 really need to be stimulated. So instead of thinking about the bottom of the food chain, we got to stimulate the top of the food chain and go all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. There's 4 steps: cortisol, inflammation, liver, gut, all affect your thyroid, and you can use your labs to determine where your fault is. Does that make sense?
It does, for sure. For anybody kind of wondering what the GA, the GF, what all of those are, is it's just a supplement company. Those are specific supplements that Dr. Kylie's talking about. Then that's just how they're named and labeled. If you guys have any questions, just let me know, because both of us will use that same company. So you can reach out to either of us if you have questions. But yeah, I actually am curious. So in the scenario, I mean, for that patient in particular, you really couldn't put other supplements in, but is there a reason why, or did you do anything to help support liver and gut? Because I'm assuming there's probably a piece there, since she doesn't have a stomach, I mean, there's a lot of things that then the small intestine and the large intestine have to take over for, and they're really not designed to do that.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Kirsten, I think her GI tract, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be much that we can do about it. Which may be why she might have to stay on Armour Thyroid.
Sure.
Because her body is not in that way to produce it on its own and to make that conversion.
Sure.
Now she did, like I said, she did want a DIY plan. If I was working with her more one-on-one, we would dive into more of the liver and more of the gut stuff, knowing that you have to bypass the GI tract with anything that you do, because her body is just not made to digest it.
Yeah, I was also thinking too, I wonder if she would be a good candidate for like IV type. I don't know if she does that, but vitamins, minerals. So finding, like, we can't do that here in Oregon, which I think is unfortunate, but I know of a lot of naturopaths that do a lot of IV vitamins, minerals, things like that. And that way you can bypass the digestive system and stuff.
For sure. I know in Arizona, they have a lot of just like IV walk-in clinics where you can go, like, you can go get hydration. You can go get a pack of liquid and IV. Just, you pay like a monthly membership fee and you walk in and you pay, $30 per IV or whatever the case may be. And you can get really whatever you want in Arizona. And I wish that influence would come up to Utah more.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start that one day up here. But.
Yeah, maybe. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, IV would be an awesome route to take.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go through your insurance, like, really, people, don't play the insurance game when it comes to IVs, because you're not going to have any luck, to be honest. So yeah, IVs would be a great route.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that's important in what we basically just went over and covered is that I see a lot of people who have just basically lost hope. Like, there's no other options, because all of the options that they've explored have all kind of led them down the same path and the same route, and they really haven't found any solutions. And I think what's important is that I think as the reason why I love doing these types of podcasts and these types of demos is that the power really comes in understanding. Like, you may not have the education to really be able to understand everything that's happening here, but we can start to learn what are some of the basics of how our physiology works, like how our body works, and you can become your own health advocate. You can start to learn these things and then find doctors and people who know what's happening, and they can draw these pathways out for you and show you where some of the issues are coming from. I think that it's really important for anybody who's dealing with GI stuff, with liver, with thyroid, with adrenals, to ask their doctors what actually is happening and see if they can draw out for you what's going on. I think that we would have much better understanding and approaches if we were asking more in some ways from our doctors.
Yeah, and I know the ones I work with a lot too, they ask the question why, and they're not satisfied with the answer.
Yeah.
But remember, like I love my primary care doctor. He's very, very smart. And so when you're getting frustrated with the doctors, just remember it's not the doctor themselves.
Yep.
It's the system that they were educated in.
Yep.
And it really is a broken system. And for like you and I, we busted out of that system. I mean, you can testify, I got suspended at school because I was doing this kind of stuff with patients. I mean, I remember I had a lady walk in and she was the biggest mess I had ever seen. I've seen a lot of messes, but we couldn't even have the lights on in the treatment room because the headaches and the light sensitivity was so bad. And, you know, every MRI, every CAT scan, every lab test had all come back normal. And, you know, it was that moment that clicked in my head that said, okay, if I look at her the same way everybody else looks at her, I'm going to get the same results. And that's not okay with me. Yeah. So how do I train myself to think differently? And that's when I really dove into functional medicine, because functional medicine is literally biochemistry and physiology. And it's complicated. It gets really complex.
It really does.
But it works and it changes lives, which is why we do it. So
that's awesome.
Whatever your scenario is, start that glimmer of hope again, because there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are doctors like you and I that think differently and that are not okay just handing out prescriptions. But like I said, doctors are a product of the system that they were educated in. They're doing the best that they can. We all get into this field wanting to help people. That's why we do it. It's just you and I have learned elsewhere, not in a typical medical school where pharmaceuticals are really the only option.
Yeah, I think also too, when you really start to look at a lot of labs, like when I've started seeing more and more labs in front of me, I've started realizing there are definitely commonalities between people, but there's also a lot of individuality too. There's a lot of uniqueness that comes in with each person. And I mean, that makes sense, right? We're all genetically different. We all have different environments. We all have different stressors in our lives. You know, some of them are the same, but there's still a lot that are different. And I think having a treatment plan that fits all doesn't really account for a lot of the differences that come in. So I think having a physician, a doctor that can work with you on your unique individuality and will take that into account, and also I think has room to see how you respond to things and just know that people are going to respond and react differently depending on what's going on. And that's just part of the process. You know, I think just being able to say, oh, I'm going to be able to take care of this in 3 to 4 months is kind of like, I don't know. I think there's some individuality that really comes into this that we need to, I think we just need to keep in mind.
Yeah, I'm mentoring a couple nurse practitioners right now they've been in Western medicine for 20 plus years, got introduced to functional medicine, and they were like, why haven't we been doing medicine like this for the last 50 years? So they're wanting to switch over, but it really is a big mentality changer, that it's not like, well, I have this marker is high, so I give this. I've really been trying to work with them like, this is personalized medicine. There's not a protocol. This isn't a one size fits all. There's no protocol for these things. You just work with each individual and figure out their each individual needs. And it's been difficult for them.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes for me it's difficult.
Yeah, it still does
you know,
progress.
shoot, like I sometimes am like, gosh, I just wish there was a protocol that would just fix all of this. You know, it's just easy follow like 1, 2, 3, but that's just really very rarely the case that somebody fits exactly how I want it to go. So,
If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
oh, for sure, 100%. So, do you have anything? I think that's a great place to wrap this up. I know that I really appreciate the way that you just drew all of that out. I think that's really helpful, and I think it was also really clear. And I'm really hoping that people who are watching this find it to be helpful as well. Do you have anything else you want to close on? You want to add?
There is a workshop that I have that will dive into this more. It will literally walk you through how to read your labs. So whatever labs you have in regards to your thyroid, get into this workshop at drkylieburton.com/crack your thyroid code is where you'll find it. It's very inexpensive, $27, less than a copay. And you can actually get the answers. You can get your individualized answers between everything from brain fog to inability to lose weight to I'm just not me, I'm not myself again. Dive into your thyroid labs and you can crack your code at that workshop. So if you want some more information, if you want to dive into this a little bit deeper, that would be a great place to start.
I highly recommend checking that out. And then Dr. Kylie, where else can they find you?
I'm on Facebook, majority at Dr. Kylie Burton. Find me on Facebook. I'm on YouTube, and we're venturing into Pinterest. I also have a podcast called Beyond the Diagnosis with Dr. Kylie. We're launching that in 3 weeks. So
that's so exciting.
You'll be able to find it on iTunes, Spotify, and Podbean for sure.
Awesome. And just a little plug, you'll be able to find one of our podcasts as well, where she interviewed me. So on migraines. So I highly recommend going and go follow Dr. Kylie and then watch for that to be launched and go give her a like and a subscribe, because that's it. Well, you'll see one from yours truly. And there's going to be a lot of really great stuff on there. So Dr. Kylie, thank you again so much for being here. I know I learned a lot, and I'm really excited to be able to put this out there and talk more about it. So thanks again.
Thanks, Kirsten. It's great having you. Great being on this, I should say.
Yeah, well,
I'm so used to hosting.